Hey everyone, my name is Ralph, and today I will be showing you how I edit a photo that looks like this straight out of camera to end up looking like this. I do this first in Lightroom and then in Photoshop, and I will take you through step by step of how I do this edit, including all of the various experimentation that I do along the way. So it's a fairly lengthy video, but hopefully some of the things that I do might be helpful for you. So follow along. Okay, we're gonna start out in Lightroom where I have this photo. This is shot here in Ottawa where I live, right around sunset. I think it's just after sunset, so blue hour is about to set in, but you can see the faint sort of pinkish colors around the horizon here. And what I hope to do is to bring out more of that and sort of paint the sky a little bit with those kind of colors while bringing out some shadows and making this photo a little bit more, or the shadows a little bit more visible. It is underexposed in the shadows, as you can see up here, quite a bit here. That's okay. Shot at ISO 100, and as you can tell, we're gonna be able to recover all of those shadows without a problem. So yeah, trying to make the shadows come out a little bit and making the sky glow with some beautiful sunset colors without being sort of blown out. That's the idea, which is something that I've been going for. A look that I've been going for quite a bit this summer is sort of the sunset feeling, adding, to be quite honest, some beautiful color to my skies. So not really going in with a plan here, to be honest. I've played around with this before, but not that much. So just gonna see if we can dial in my exposure okay. And we're going to see what we can do about this. And I tend to not get these settings right from the beginning, so we're gonna come back and revisit those. Right now I'm just trying to get it somewhere around the exposure that I want. See, not really any clipping here to the left, neither on the right in the highlights. We can fix some of these with local adjustments as well. So I think that this is sort of good enough for me to begin with, to be completely honest. The next thing that I tend to do is that I increase my vibrancy quite a bit to bring out some of the colors. I rarely play with saturation because I think it becomes too obvious, and I don't like that. I'm gonna get quite a bit of saturation out of certain colors. So with these settings pretty okay to begin with, just gonna head over to lens correction. It is a wide angle. This is at 14 millimeters, so it does quite a bit to distortions, and it also brightens up the image quite a bit because we had some vignetting here. Then gonna hit details and add some sharpening. I usually try to zoom in somewhere to see what the sharpening looks like. So on a Mac, if you hold Command, you see how the cursor changes, and then you can sort of select where you want to look at, and it zooms in for you. I'm just going to wait a few seconds for the image to resolve. You can see it's a little bit grainy, but we're fairly far zoomed in and on a wide angle lens. Oops. Go back to detail. And the way that I approach this is that I usually start with masking, and by holding down Option, you can see and change where the sharpening is applied. So if I hold down Option and then start selecting masking here, you can see how it goes from white to less white, and you can start seeing contours of the boat here or the ferry. And what this does is just reducing or restricting where the sharpness is applied. Everything that is white gets sharpened. So let's put that somewhere there. Let's actually dial that down a little bit. And then sharpen something like that. And then hit fit. You should find that pretty useful. And then I'm gonna head over to calibration. Just gonna bump up the blue saturation. It brings, similar to vibrancy, I find it really pulls out a lot of vibrancy. And then kind of bump the hue to the left a little bit. I find that it gives me these more pinkish tones. And to be quite honest, I tend to mainly play around a little bit with these and see what I find working for me. And sometimes I don't do a lot. Let's actually not push that. So let's see before and after what we have so far. It looks good. You can do this by hitting the pipe, or what I think is the backslash. Never remember which is back and forward slash. So this looks pretty okay. I'm actually gonna see what happens if we bump the contrast a little bit more there. It's cool. Okay, then I'm gonna hit the tone curve and see if we bring up the shadows just a slight bit here, and then bring this down. And see, something that I've been doing a lot lately is that I like to add blues to my shadows. So just add a couple of these, then just very gently increase this bottom part to bring in some blues in the shadows, or bring out some blues in the shadows. And then, like I said, I'm still learning a lot, so I'm essentially just playing around with some of these sliders to see what I can find. And then I'm gonna go to do some local adjustments, starting with the sky here. And see what we can do to sort of bring out some more. So just gonna reduce the highlights here. Wonder if we're gonna bring out some more yellow here. And if we want to add whites, it would probably not be a good idea. And then gonna add some color in here. Oh, that's too much. Let's see. Let's try that. Then what I typically apply, especially when it comes to skies, is this luminance mask. And what the luminance mask does is it tells Photoshop, like, I only want this to apply to the shadows or the midtones or the highlights. And in this case, I want to apply it to mainly to the highlights. And similar to what we did with sharpening, you can hold down Option while you hit both the range and the smoothness, and it actually shows you where it gets applied. And this is wherever it's white is what it's going to be applied to. So the more white, this is like everything gets this this adjustment. And just gonna bring this up quite a bit to make sure that it doesn't get applied to the shadows. And then I'm gonna use the smoothness to get even more reserved. I think that looks good. And you can see the difference that this makes. We can toggle this on and off. You see you get a little bit more of pinkish color in these guys, or in the sky. You can also do a tiny bit of dehaze. Sometimes I actually bring down the dehaze to sort of get out some glow, but don't want to do that in this one. Bring a little bit of contrast, and then I think that this is okay. I don't particularly like the very bright orange here. It's actually something that annoys me a little bit. So I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with that. Let's see what we can do with the colors. Sometimes, because I add a lot of blues, I then also remove a lot of blues in the saturation area. Don't necessarily need a lot of this in this one. It's particularly useful for blue skies, for instance. So let's see if we can target this orange. We can. It's fairly global, and this is just some of that yellow tint. So this is very crude. Don't like that. Yeah, I think that I'm gonna target that in Photoshop, to be honest. Can't really target that well. So starting to get somewhere where I'm good enough and can bring it into Photoshop. Gonna do some more local adjustments. There's something about the photo that I don't quite like. Can't really put my finger on it. This is one thing. It also looks a little bit too bright when it comes to the shadows. This is, after all, at sundown, so don't want it to be too bright. Can also change this to white background to see. Sometimes your eye gets a little bit tricked by having a very dark background, so you can switch that around a little bit. It actually does quite a big difference. So let's bring that back a little bit and see if we want to have that. Okay, and then we're gonna do some local adjustments to actually bring out shadows a little bit selectively. So let's see, we're gonna add just a little bit of this. We can add a little bit of contrast, reduce the flow, increase the density a little bit. And if you scroll up and down on your mouse wheel or your whatever you use to scroll, you can make this bigger or smaller. This is going to be good enough. It's just going to bring out some highlights, some shadows here. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can do a little bit over here as well. Tend to do more than I want, because you can always dial it down a little bit afterwards. Okay. And then something like that. And then I think that we're gonna grab a new one. Gonna increase the contrast quite a bit and reset these. Maybe increase the yellows a little bit and see if we can bring out a little bit more of these colors that we have. Oops, that's too big. Here in the water. Let's actually apply a luminance mask to this. Something like that. And yeah, something like that. Oop. I actually wanted to apply a new one. Didn't mean to close that. And you can reset everything by holding Shift and double clicking on Effect. You don't have to go through all of that. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to do the opposite, something like the opposite on just a few parts of the photo here to add even more contrast here in the water. Doesn't have to be perfect. Something like this. And then again, you can just like toggle this on and off a little bit. This is what it looked like before, and this is what it looked like after. So I'm pretty happy with what we got here. Again, not super happy with the color here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do a good job with that. We can change the, just changing the white balance to see what it looks like, just playing around a little bit. And if I ever do something that I don't like, playing around a bit, it's hard to remember what I had. I always just use Command Z, bringing it back to where I was. And you can also use the history here is particularly useful because you can see wherever I was before I changed the temperatures where I want to go. So I'm not entirely sure that I can do much here, to be honest. Nah. Let's see if color grading can help us at all here. Let's see. We can definitely get some of the colors that we want using color grading. Then can we get the shadows to be a little bit more... Oop. See, these kind of tones here, I find they look very unnatural. And I don't like that. Let's see if we can isolate that with the midtones instead. Yeah, this is gonna be much better. Let's see. That looks pretty good. Let's bring that up. Yeah. That's better. It's almost too much, but better. Let's see. No. It's maybe bring down the contrast a little bit. Yeah. Okay. I think this is good. So let's then take this into Photoshop. So right click, edit in Adobe Photoshop 2021. Okay, so we're in Photoshop. Typically do is I just duplicate a layer and what I do is I have some preset actions that I've recorded. So I usually apply luminosity or I use luminosity masks. So I have my own action that creates 3 highlights and 3 shadows or darks, lights and darks, brights and darks. And then because I'm lazy, I haven't recorded one for my midtones. So I currently do this manually. Oops. And if you want to learn how to use luminosity masks, there's a bunch of good tutorials out there that shows you how to do this. I'll try to explain as I go, but I use this to target certain aspects of my photo. It's similar to the luminosity mask that I just used in Lightroom. It's just that you do it in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to start with my midtones and see if I can play a little bit with the contrast. So I'm not sure if I want to use this or this. Let's actually start with this one. Disregard that because it doesn't matter. And even though you can't tell, there is actually a selection made here to the midtones, which is essentially everything that I was bright in here. It's going to go ahead and create a brightness and contrast layer. And what you can tell is that if I increase the contrast, brightness, you can see that it does change. So I want to bring that up a little bit. Okay, that's good. Then I might actually try to target the colors in the sky. And the way that luminosity masks work is that everything that is bright here is what would get targeted by whatever adjustments that I want to make. So these luminosity masks essentially just have decreasing amount of brightness that it attacks. I think that this is too much. This is pretty good. So I hold Command and click Shift, and you can see there's a selection made. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go down and I'm going to select color balance. There's a bunch of different ways that you can go about this. And similar to Lightroom, I tend to just play around a little bit. So here we can either go towards the yellowish. Let's actually leave this and see. little bit on the magenta side. Maybe not so much on the red side. Then in the mid-tones we'll see. Actually don't want to do that there either. Already have quite a bit of color here. Yes. So I want to increase the blues and the shadows here. And it's not actually targeting the shadows. It's targeting the shadow parts of the brightness, so the darker aspects of the brightness. So it's worth remembering that we're not actually targeting the shadows. Let's get a slight adjustment there. And then I might go for the shadows and see if we can increase the contrast a little bit, and that's going to be too much. I think that we're going to select this and we're going to take a curves adjustment layer for this. And we're going to decrease the shadows. Oops. So get a little bit more darks in there. And then at this point, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to collapse all of these or merge them all into a layer, but rather than merging the visible here or flattening the image, I will use Shift Option Command and E, and I create a new layer where everything that was visible becomes visible. And I'm just gonna see what this looks if I add an Orton glow effect. Also have a preset done for that. Yeah, looks pretty okay. Not quite ready to apply that yet. And I'm actually gonna go back and change these. Like such. So we're starting to come along. Now I want to see if I can actually target this orange patch. We're doing that with hue saturation. So what you can do is that you take this little, it doesn't look like a picker, but it has a picker, and then you can sort of increase and decrease the saturation. You can see there's a lot of this image that actually has that color. What we're going to do is that we're going to bring it down quite a bit. Let's actually not do anything with the lightness. See if we want to change a little bit more towards the pinkish side. And I actually only want this to apply to this aspect here. You can see it does quite a lot for the overall image, and I don't want to have that applied to everywhere. So what we're going to do, there's a couple of different ways. You can hit Command A and do delete, or you can, if you want to have a black layer mask, also hold Option and add it here. And then I'm gonna take a brush and oops, let's make that quite small, and I got opacity 50, 40 and 50. I can bring that up a little bit, and we got white set here, and then I'm gonna paint in white here. It's removing some of that. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I like this better. It's very subtle, but it does make a difference to me. That's pretty okay. Let's change that to color. And what I want to do is that I like my vibrancy. So we're gonna just bring up the overall vibrancy of this. Gonna change this to color. And I rarely increase the saturation. You can see it brings back a lot of that orangey. Like I'd rather have it with too much vibrancy than anything else. And I usually just apply this as a global filter. Sometimes I apply it only to brightness. It's going to be in the sky, for instance, but here we just do it as a global filter. So now you can see that get a little bit more of a pop, which I like. Okay, is there anything else that I want to do? I don't think so. I think that this is pretty good. I do find this little thing here annoying, so I might actually go in and remove it. So what we do again is Shift Option Command E. Let's create a new layer. Got that right here, and we can see if Photoshop can perform its magic right here. Whoops. So I'm not super fussed about getting this entire thing perfectly in. The function Shift and F5 brings in the fill tool, using content aware. That's not great, is it? Oh, it actually looks pretty crap. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to see it. I know what I'm looking for, so I see it. Not super happy with that. Let's actually do this again. So, oops. I'm not thinking that Photoshop will do a better job. Oh, darn. It's gonna look quite the same even if I redo it. I just think that I might be able to work with this anyway. So let's see, so I'm trying to get the shadow here as well. Just give it a little bit more ground to work with. Okay, that looks okay. And then we're just gonna use this tool. Oh, we want to have quite high opacity, high flow. Oh. Decrease this. Because I don't like this. Doesn't look normal. Just gonna go in and paint some of this in. Make it look a little bit more natural. Something like that. This part here as well doesn't look too good, as you can see. Neither does this. Not sure what to sample here. That might work. No. That will work. I think that we can get away with this. And then right here, just fix this a little bit. Yeah, I actually think that this might work. And this is, some would consider it cheating. I am changing aspects of the photo here, but I think that this is well within reason. If you know what you're looking for, you're going to see this. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, because if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to see it. So it's starting to look okay to me. If we hold Option and click here, you can see before after. It's have a slightly better contrast, a little bit more of a, I wouldn't say it's pop, but you can see the colors are a little bit more overall vibrant. Okay. I think that this is going to be okay. This is good enough for me. So let's add some guides here. That get this a little bit to the left, sorry, to the right. And we don't get that one there. Do I want that one there? Is that distracting? No, I actually want that. I kind of like how the bridge starts here. And then let's bring this up a little bit. A little bit more sky. Something like that. Was that too much? I think that that's good. What I do then again is Shift Option Command E. I create a new layer here. That's a copy of everything below, which is essentially really just this one, because this is on top. And then for this one, I'm gonna hit my Orton layer here. And what the Orton layer does is that it creates this glow. You can see really adds this glowing effect. A little bit dreamy, everything becomes a little bit hazy, a little bit too much in my opinion. So I'm gonna bring that down a tad. Still a little bit too much if you ask me. Let's try 10%. That's better. And if I was picky, I would do something about the branches here, but I don't see it being worth my time. I don't mind if there was some, like, if we had green here, it would be awesome, but I'm not gonna go in and remove this distraction here. It's just not worth my time. And it's not gonna be that much better, to be honest. So I think that this is it. This is the final edit. What I tend to do here is that I just export this, or actually I'm gonna sharpen it. So again, I'm gonna create a copy of everything. I'm gonna take this over to its own document, and then I'm gonna use Alex Nail's web resize. You can, I think his website here. Yeah, if you go to alexnail.com, download his web sharpening action. There's one here for Instagram. First, crop to fits inside 1080 1350, which is 4:5. We've done that. We hit play. It does everything that it's supposed to do, and what you get out is a image that is sharpened for web. It looks awful if you zoom in, but at 100% it looks good. And then I just do file, export, save for web. Do about 75 here, which is what I've been told makes sense for Instagram. Got my 1080 1350. It's about half a megabyte in size. And this is for Instagram. So it's essentially settings that are optimized towards that. Today is actually 1st of August. And this is the first time that I usually have to rename whatever it is. So we're just going to call this Alexandra Bridge at Sunset. It's not very original. And I usually put 4:5 IG crop sharpened. And we're also going to have Orton in this. Okay, and then I just hit save, and that's it. That's what it takes, or what I do when I edit a photo. Takes quite a bit of long time. I do a lot of experimentation. If you found it useful, do let me know. If there's anything in there that you would like to know a little bit more about, just let me know. I'd be happy to show you guys. Thanks for following along.